So Rain, thank you so much for coming on and joining me today on the show. I know that everyone in the Braver Women community has been following your story avidly, cheering you on. You've gained some real amazing peer support from sharing all of your milestones since you worked with me. So I know everyone's really curious to know a bit more about you. I know who you are, but obviously the Braver Women don't in the community. So just tell us a little bit about you, who you are, where you're from, any interesting facts that you'd like us to know.
Okay, well, I'm Rain. I'm 61 and I live on the west coast of Ireland. I've been here about 40 years and I originally came from Warwickshire in England.
Wow, west coast of Ireland, from Warwickshire to the west coast of Ireland. What's that like?
It's big change, lovely big change.
Yeah.
And work-wise, I've been a veterinary nurse. I've worked in guitar shops. I've been a postie. I've been an accounts manager. But for the last 14 years, I've been writing books, mainly lesbian fiction, but some other books about animals and so on, and children's books. And my hobbies are playing the guitar. We're passionate about guitars.
Yeah.
And I like to record my music. I write my own songs, record it, put it on Spotify and YouTube, and I get a lot of pleasure out of doing that.
Yeah. Wow. So it sounds like you keep busy in your spare time, Rain, that's for sure. Tell us a bit about your books. I'm really curious to know, and I know everyone listening to this will be too. So talk to us about that.
My first book was a novel called Cub. And they're lesbian fiction stories, not full length, they're kind of short novels, really.
Yeah.
And my first 4 books were all lesbian fiction, and then I branched out and did a memoir. It was sort of jokey memoir of my childhood growing up in the 60s and 70s, and then I did a children's book about a dog that wanted to ride on a tractor. After that, another book about a dog.
Yeah,
and another memoirs in there somewhere. Yeah.
So it's fair to say that you're fairly creative, writing, music, all of that good stuff.
Yeah,
fantastic. So thank you so much for coming on. It's a real pleasure to have you here. And I know that you've watched all of these success interviews, and one of the things that you said to me when we first started working together was, I want to get to that point where I'm sharing my story and out on the other side. And it's just amazing that you're here.
Yeah, I wanted to be one of those women that sat there and said that it's been a success and it's worked for me, and really hoped that would happen, and it has.
Yeah, amazing. So we're going to find out a little bit more. So to start off with, Rain, just tell us about, just so everyone can get to know you a little bit and understand the journey that you've been on. What were you like as a child? What was growing up? What was it really like for you?
I was a bit of a lonely child. I didn't have a very good relationship with my mom.
Yeah.
And looking back, I would say I was emotionally neglected. My dad was very busy with work. So I was one of those lonely, quiet children that I used to sit behind the sofa playing with my Lego, and pretty quiet, and felt whenever there was something difficult going on in my life, I didn't really have any support or anyone to turn to. So it wasn't the easiest of childhoods.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I know I can certainly relate with that. And I know a lot of women that I've worked with can as well. It's we don't know it as children, what's going on. We learn coping mechanisms that almost become problems later on.
Yeah.
And so were you an only child, or did you have brothers or sisters?
No, I had an older sister who's 2.5 years older, and she's very different to me. She was very bouncy and kind of a child that was always out of the house. In fact, a lot of memories I have, I can't remember her being there, so she was always out playing with her friends and so on.
Yeah. And how do you think that affected you as you grew up, just feeling emotionally lonely and not feeling as loved as other kids?
I think it made me quite needy, and I used to worry a lot about when anything went wrong. I used to worry, what am I going to do? I had to solve everything myself, or I felt that I had to. I didn't really have an extended family of aunties and uncles. They all lived in other countries, and Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you say quite needy, when did you become aware of that? Like, how did you realize that? How did you think that was a problem?
I think when I started forming friendships, and they were, I don't know whether this part of this was being gay.
Yeah.
Friendships with other girls, I found that they seemed to be, the friendship itself seemed to be a lot more important to me than it was to them. And if any friendships broke up, I took it really to heart, took it too hard.
Yeah. So it's quite a sensitive child then, by all accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that must have been quite difficult for you. So if you, when you say your mum wasn't there emotionally, what looking back, what did you notice? What did you notice?
She really had her own things going on, and I know it sounds a terrible thing to say, but I don't think she actually liked me very much. Mm-hmm. So I spent all my young life trying to get her to like me, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, yeah, it was just a very, very lonely existence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not really a happy childhood.
Yeah, Rain, I totally resonate with everything you've said there. And I know that we've talked about this ourselves, haven't we? Mm. And I know that there's a lot of women out there listening to this who will completely resonate as well. Just having that emotional vacance, that the vacant parents there in body, but not in spirit or mind. And it can have a profound effect on a child's development growing up.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm. So, how did you realize? When did you come to the realization that you were different, that you were gay? What was that like?
For me, the way it presented, first of all, and this would be going back as far as I can remember to about 3. I really wanted to be a boy to a huge extent. In fact, if it happened nowadays, they would have said I was a trans kid.
Yeah.
And I told everybody that I was a boy called Barry. If they asked me my name, I would say my name's Barry. And if they thought I was a boy and called me son, I'd be delighted all day. I got my sister to try to get her to call me Barry, and I used to give her my pocket money if she would call me that all week. And it used to last about 5 minutes, and then she'd forget, you know.
How old were you? How old were you, Rain, when you wanted to be, when you had the realization that you wanted to be a boy?
Even at 3, I was telling people I was a boy. 3, 4, 5. It lasted until I was about 11.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I realised that this wasn't really going to work for me, and it was never. I used to, go to bed praying that I would wake up and be a boy.
Yeah.
That was how it presented at first, but then at school, I started having crushes on girls really early on. I mean, I don't know if they were exactly romantic crushes at that point, but my first crush was a girl called Jill, who'd been crowned the Mayflower Queen, the thing we had where we used to dance around a maypole.
Yeah.
And so I thought she was amazing, and she wouldn't have anything to do with me, which of course made me even more keen on her. And it was her. And then I remember I had a really close little friend when I was about 6, 7. And when we were about 6, we went into the room where both our parents were, and her parents had come to fetch her. And we were hand in hand, and we told them that when we grew up, we were going to get married to each other. They immediately went, "Oh, no, this can't be." Yeah, and I had a lecture then about girls don't marry girls, and I think they were worried about me by then. Because in those days, if you had a child that wasn't conforming in a gender way, the parents did worry, and they tried to sort of knock it out, in terms of persuade you to be more girly, and there was a lot of fights about what I was going to wear. That was a big, huge thing. I'm sure you felt the same.
Oh God, yeah. Getting a dress, coming back in from having a bath, coming to the bed and seeing a dress laid out with floral socks was just my idea of felt.
My 9th birthday, I was told that I had to wear a dress to my party, and it was so sky blue with sparkly glitter all over it.
Yeah,
sort of itchy frilly bits at the neck.
Oh God!
And I stood up. I can't wear that. I'm not going to wear it to my party. And they said, "Really, then you wear the dress when you miss your party."
So you missed your own party then because you had to wear a dress.
Yeah, that's how important it was to me.
Yeah, definitely.
It felt like being in drag or something, wear the wrong thing. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And I can totally relate to that. And I know a lot of women who I've spoken to can as well. Just feeling as if, I remember I had a situation with my own mother one time, and she was desperately trying to put ribbons in my hair and all of that nonsense. And she said to me, "Why do you want to dress like a boy?" And I said, "Because I just want to dress how I want to dress, Mum." And I said to her when I was older, and when she said to me, why do you dress the way you do?" I said, "Let me ask you a question, Mum. If I asked you to go and put a man's suit on or boyish clothes, how would you feel?" And she said, "I'd feel really uncomfortable. I wouldn't like that." I said, "That's exactly how I feel when you used to pressurize me to wear clothes that I just didn't want to wear."
Oh yeah, and the thing is, like, who said that? A certain clothes are boys' clothes anyway. That was the problem. They just picked certain clothes and called them boys' clothes, and we weren't allowed to wear them.
I know, I hate that. And it's I'm really surprised that even in 2023 we don't have more gender neutral options when we buy clothes. I don't understand why that is.
Some of my happiest days when I was a child were when I was allowed to wear what I wanted to wear.
Yeah.
And it became really important to me.
What did you like wearing?
Oh, t-shirts and jeans, Yeah. I remember my dad had a t-shirt, and one day they bought me a t-shirt that was exactly the same, and I just felt like 10 feet tall.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that crazy that we know it's such a young age, don't we? And just become so conditioned by other people's ideas that they impress upon us. And
yeah, it's sad when you think of it, people making a child be a certain way when they clearly aren't that way.
Yeah.
They will just keep doing it, regardless of how you're resisting and obviously not presenting that way.
Yeah, it's almost like asking a right-handed person to then start writing with their left hand. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, force people to do that in the old days, and writing with the other hand. So it's just there's a very good analogy. Yeah.
So how did you, if you don't mind me asking, Rain, how did your mum and family, how did they respond? So they've got this little girl that isn't gender conforming, that is very quiet, very introverted, very highly sensitive as a kid. And what was that like for you? How did they respond to all of that?
They just tried desperately hard to make me be the opposite to the way I was, and they compared me to my sister, who of course was really, really girly. Had all the Barbie dolls, and Cindy's where I wanted the action man and the Tommy gun and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I felt like I was failing them, and I was letting them down, that they were disappointed in me. And I never really knew for sure whether that's why my mum didn't like me, but I think she just saw it in me as an early age. And when I was about 10, I overheard her saying to a friend, "I hope she doesn't grow up to be a lesbian."
Right.
I wasn't even really sure what that was. I think I went and tried to find out.
Yeah, yeah. That must have just been heartbreaking for you when you did find out what it meant. And
yeah, because I just wanted to please them, and see that didn't really seem to be possible if I was going to carry on being me. But then when I was about 11, as I said, it was a kind of a critical age just before you changed school to the big school. And the other thing that was happening for me, I used to hang out with boys all the time, play rough games with boys, play trees, all that. And then, but the girls used to shun me because I was boyish and rough and played rough. Yeah. And then I just got to an age where the boys get to a funny age where they don't want to hang out with girls anymore, puberty really. And then I started trying to turn to the girls, and it was too late. I hadn't learned enough skills about being a girl. And they'd rejected me really. So I was a bit of a loner again, as I was when I was a young child.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. And I think it's heartbreaking, isn't it? I hadn't learned enough skills to be, to hang out with the girls. But what you had learned was enough skills that were true to you, and you were just getting rejected for it.
I remember they used to do specific things like swap shoes.
Yeah.
And I never understand that. And they used to play those patter cake games with their hands and did each other's hair. Well, I never really had long hair. And they used to put swap bubbles over that they used to put in their hair and things like that. And I used to try and do handstands. And I was never really good at any of those things. So, I tried.
I had a similar experience growing up because I have a twin who's straight, very girly. And my mum, I used to be crying my eyes out because my mum would say, your sister wants you to hold on to the pram and walk around the road with her. She's got all her dolls lined up in this pram. And I'd just be like, oh my God, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. Always got elected to play dad, as kids playing house or games like that, Yeah, the parents, how do they not see it?
There's lots of rituals that you go through in childhood, like being a bridesmaid for the first time. And you're supposed to be delighted that you're going to wear a lovely dress, and truly it was horrific. And when you have to wear a bra for the first time and go and buy one, and they start congratulating you on being a woman, and that's time in my life. I didn't want to be a woman, and so all these things.
Yeah. And so, how do you feel now? I know it's a very personal question. I think you've been incredibly brave, by the way. But in terms of having those trans leanings to where you are now, what's changed or what happened?
Yeah, I did consider transitioning quite late in life, in my 50s, early 50s.
Yeah.
About 4 years I looked into. I even had some counselling to do with that, gender counselling. But I decided in the end that I wanted to stay as I was. Perhaps a few years ago now, and I'm very happy being me now. And I'm very proud of being a woman as well. So, yeah.
Good for you. And it's always nice, isn't it? Sometimes we can spend so long just trying to figure out. And, I think the thing that we forget, a lot of people forget, is that fluidity, there's nothing set in stone because we're always changing through our lifetimes, aren't we? And just having to anchor yourself onto one thing for the whole of your life is pretty limiting, I think.
That's true, yeah.
So how did you come out, Rain? What age were you? What experience did you have?
I didn't have any romantic experiences with girls at all until I came out, and I was actually 35 when I came out.
Okay.
So by that time, I had been married since I was 22 to a man. Very unhappily, as it turned out, and how it actually, I've been aware since a very young age, as I already said, of being attracted to girls and then women when I grew up. And I used to explain it away to myself by saying, no, you don't really fancy them, you just want to be them because you're not confident in yourself and you think they're really cool, and that's why you have these feelings of admiration towards them. But I knew really it wasn't. And it's a funny story how I came out, really, that I went to the cinema and to see a film called G.I. Jane. I mean, it's so corny, isn't it? I came out during G.I. Jane, but I actually did. I even remember the date and saved the ticket and everything. It was such a big thing for me because I was sitting watching this film and this kind of butch sort of character, and I suddenly thought the reason I identify so much with this film and this character is because I'm gay, and it's like a big light bulb came on above my head. Yeah. And I thought, you're gay. And from then on, things improved for me.
Really? Goodness me. So you've been married before, and you did the whole gender conforming things that you thought were expected of you.
That's right, yeah. And marriage was such a disappointment to me. When I got married, I remember thinking, do I feel the way people are supposed to feel when they get married? And I wasn't sure that I did. And it was just all very disappointing to me, the romantic thing with guys.
And I think with women, are such we're such emotional beings, aren't we? I just feel, I'm not saying guys aren't emotional, but I think that my experience of women are just very, very, there's no mucking about, really, is there? We're just very feeling, very emotional beings, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. And did your sexuality, Rain, when you did come out, did that have any impact on your self-esteem? I know growing up for you did, but did your sexuality, did that impact you as well, or what did you notice?
Yeah, well, as I said, as a child, it definitely held me back in that if you looked a bit boyish, especially as you got a little bit older, people would tease you, boys would call you names, girls would call you names as well. So it sort of held me back. But then when I actually came out to myself first, and then I let that sit for a while before I came out to other people. So, but when I came out, it was just, the whole thing was a really, really, really positive experience for me. And I thought, I can just be me now. That's the answer to everything. I can just be me. I used to, before that, I used to try and conform with the way I dressed, with the way I had my hair, with the things I spoke about, even things I was interested in. And then gradually I started changing all that to the way I wanted to really be, the way I really felt was the authentic me.
Yeah.
And that was a lovely experience. I really enjoyed it.
And I speak to a lot of women every day, and you've seen in the group as well. There's a lot of women out there who are still trying to have that level of acceptance internally. What was it? What helped you, Rain? Because I know a lot of people will be listening to this thinking, well, what was it? What was it that got you over the edge to give you that relief, that acceptance?
I never had the feeling that it was wrong, even though when I was young, I was sort of conventionally a religious child. So you would think that I would have something in the back of my head that had been taught to me growing up in the 60s and 70s that it was wrong.
Yeah.
Certainly was considered wrong in those days by the general population. In fact, it was classed as an illness legally. No.
I know.
So, but I never felt that way. I never felt that it was an awful thing. For me, it was just a really positive thing. Really great to be me at last. And I'd always been aware that there were other gay people in the world, gay women, but I never really met anybody that was gay, either or women. And I just got really, really excited at the idea that I could meet people that were the same as me.
Sounds to me like you finally felt free. Thank God. I can, just spread your wings, just be you. No shits given. Cut your hair, wear what you want.
Exactly that. And I loved doing all that. And I waited about 7 months before I started dating as well, because I wanted to be really, I mean, I've heard people joke, can you be gay on your own? But of course you can, it's all about your identity. And I just settled into that before we went on to try to meet somebody.
I love that. Settled into my identity. It's almost like finding the perfect shoe and breaking it in, isn't it?
And I have heard being gay, but hiding it, being described as wearing shoes on the wrong feet all your life.
Yep.
And one day you put the shoes on the right feet, and that's what it feels like when you change.
Exactly. It really does. And I've used that analogy before. It's such a powerful analogy. It's that feeling, isn't it? You just know, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And so when was it that you started to become affected with anxiety, Rain? How did it affect you?
Well, I was quite shy as a child, but not in every setting. My life changed completely when I was about 7, the summer when I was 7. So this is obviously a very long time ago. And I had all those terrible experiences that happen to children through no fault of my own, where something really bad happened to me. And afterwards, I just couldn't get over it. And I felt changed. I felt forever changed by this experience. I remember going back to school and seeing all the other children that are apparently happy and carefree. And I think now, I'm sure a lot of them had problems of their own. But I just felt like I was different now. I was the only one that had this terrible sense of guilt and shame. This problem that was in my mind all the time, and it just changed me forever.
And so obviously we're not going to talk about the detail of that, I know, and it's obviously very confidential, but how low did things get for you, Rain? How were you stuck? How did it play out from childhood to adulthood?
In childhood, I remember, for example, we all had a class picture taken, and I was given the picture to take home to my parents to buy it. And I looked at the picture, and my sense of shame was so awful that I felt that I stood out in the picture more than anybody else. And I thought, if I show this to my parents, because I didn't tell anybody what happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that they're going to know, they're going to realise, because they're going to look at this picture and they're going to see that I'm tainted in some way. So that's how bad it was. And as far as how low it got, just shooting right forward, when I was 40, I had a complete mental breakdown. It wasn't just that, but I had hidden that for such a long time, but it was also just general stress in my life. But that had a huge bearing on it, a huge bearing.
Mm. And so how were you stuck? How were you stuck? What symptoms did you have?
The biggest thing was feeling of regret.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I used to wake up and think, if I hadn't been in the wrong place at the wrong time, that wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't be where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And how it started to manifest itself was, one of the first things that happened was I was asked to take a note to another teacher in another class at school. And I thought, I can't go into this classroom and face all these children in the other class, because they'll see that there's something wrong with me. So I started to feel like an other, almost alien to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going and sitting in the toilets with this note for the teacher, thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I can't go up the stairs to take this note to this classroom. And in the end, I had to do it. And my whole life became like that. Every social situation, I would be terrified, and then I'd have to go through with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just became socially very, very, very anxious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. And so having that breakdown as an adult, that must have been very scary for you, all of that uncertainty.
Yeah, I was in a psychiatric hospital for about 3 weeks, and I personally found that terrifying. Mm-hmm. And also I felt like such a failure that I'd ended up there, and which I shouldn't have done. But I just thought my life's just going downhill more and more and more, and what's next, you know?
Yeah, of course, because we have trauma imprinted on us as a child. We don't have the context or the coping mechanisms to see it for what it is. So we start to make it must be my fault. Most children come to the conclusion of, it's what have I done wrong? It's my fault. Because
and having no support, nobody that I trusted to tell. Certainly my parents were the last people I would have told.
Uh-huh.
It was a very lonely place to be, and it was a big burden to carry around all the time. And because I hid it from everybody, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I had this other thing going on as well, where I felt that because I was a masculine child, and I wasn't girly enough, and I wasn't good enough for what my parents wanted. So there was guilt about that as well. And I just thought, I'm just a mess. I'm just rubbish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, what habits or ways of thinking? I know you said that you just had this guilt, and you felt rubbish, and you were hating on yourself, and all of that going on, carrying that burden around with you, just feeling other and feeling completely separate from the world, as well as being completely frightening. How did you cope with that? Because I know that you've talked to quite openly in the community about the development of agoraphobia.
I had really low self-esteem, a lot of negative self-talk. And so I started, it's really, life got too much for me. Working got too much for me. Any job that I was in, I felt like I shouldn't be there, like I wasn't really good enough, I wasn't really qualified. So I started to gradually give up things. I gave up driving. So that was too much of a challenge. And started to withdraw into my house, and stayed in all the time, drew the blinds, and life just really stopped. I have a lot of hobbies to keep me from going completely mad, but it was a lovely place to be.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can really imagine.
Of course, occasionally you do have to go out. Mm-hmm. Things like going to the dentist, going to the doctor, and various other things. And those times were excruciating. And also, when I was a bit younger, I remember avoiding once going to a relative's wedding, and my whole family were horrified that I wouldn't go and celebrate this person's wedding. And I'd made some excuse that I didn't really feel like it or something, and they thought I was horrible because I wouldn't go. But I was also ashamed of having these feelings of not wanting to go out. So it was like a circle.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, trying to sit somebody down and explain this is a problem that has roots underneath it, many years, trauma, and I'm trying to cope here, and I can't even put into words what I'm doing, but all I know is that I've got so much self-doubt and so much fear.
It seemed like there was nowhere I could go to get any help.
Yeah, for sure. And so, what help have you sought? What help did you try before you came to work with me, Rain?
When I was 14, I sent off for a postal course, an advertised in a newspaper that said, "Are you shy? Do you feel worried about going to public events?" and that sort of thing. So I sent off for this course, and I had all this money saved up for a stereo, and I paid for this course, and it said it was £44, and this would have been about 1976, so it was a lot of money in those days. I tried to do the postal course, which was supposed to give you confidence, and it didn't really work. And I had nowhere to hide the booklets that they were sending me, so I hid them under my carpet. And one day I came home and my mum was standing with the books in her hand, and she'd seen this little lump in my carpet. And she said, "What is this rubbish and what is going on?" And I thought, "Oh no." So the worst thing that she found out about was that I'd spent this stereo money on this course, and she was furious.
And what about as an adult? What was it that you tried before you came to work with me as an adult?
So I didn't really try anything else then until I was about, I think when I was 40, when I had my breakdown, and I started, first of all, with a bit of counselling, and I did cognitive behavioural therapy. I did a big, long course of hypnotherapy. I even had a shaman come to my house and perform a ceremony, a rebirthing sort of ceremony. I basically tried I tried life coaching, every form of counselling or therapy that I could between 40 and kind of when I started working with you. Till I started working with you, nothing worked at all, and it was very frustrating.
And when you said nothing worked, why do you think that was?
Well, I think I was a tough nut to crack because I'd been sitting on these problems and living my life in a certain way, a very avoidant way, avoiding going to places. I don't know. I think I still felt that perhaps I still hadn't quite discussed in enough detail everything that was bothering me to that point.
And so we met this year,
didn't
we? And so talk to any listeners about that. What was that like for you? So you joined the Braver Women community.
Yeah, I joined Braver Women in May of this year, and I think it was the end of May or the beginning of June, and that was really exciting because the first thing I did was I saw that there was some videos on there, that you had made some videos, and they all had different titles about different aspects of anxiety, and I found the ones that I thought fit me the best. Started watching them. Some of them were podcasts and things, and the thing I loved about it was that you would talk about your own experience, and of course you were a gay woman like the rest of us in the group, so we could all relate to that, and I related to it very much. And you talked about your own experiences with anxiety, so I could see that it was very real to you, and that what you were saying was very authentic, and that you really cared about it, and that made such a difference. So I started watching the videos, reading everything in the group. The people there were lovely, very supportive. And anytime I posted about any problems or issues I had, I got lovely replies from everybody. And yeah, it was even before we started actually working together. It was a really positive experience being in the Braver Women community.
That's amazing. And and that's the thing. And I think one of the things that I try to convey, and I still do now, is that anxiety is what we notice, but what's driving it is low self-esteem, limiting beliefs, not feeling good enough, fear of failure, all of that. And it manifests as anxiety. And it's something that plagues our community on a grand scale. That's for sure, isn't it? So what motivated you what was it that motivated you, Rain, to reach out to me?
It's funny, my last therapy was a bit of a disaster. I didn't get on with the therapist at all. And I'd really decided at that point that I wasn't going to do any more therapy. And that was a couple of years ago before this. So I was 60 when I found Braver Women, and I really thought to myself, this is my last go. If I'm going to do some therapy, this is my last go. And if it doesn't help me at all, then I'm just going to accept the way I am and the way my life is. And what happened was I sent you a message and asked if there was a possibility we could work together and have some therapy. And we had a session on Zoom, and that was extremely successful for me and powerful. And I was excited about working with you straight away. It just seemed everything you were saying resonated with me, and I could see that I just had a feeling it's going to work.
Yeah. So what turned out to be a half-hour consultation lasted a bit longer, and but what was it about that, Rain? When you say it resonated with you, what resonated with you? Because I know other women listening to this will be really curious.
Yeah, I feel like I felt understood straight away. I mean, first of all, I think the fact that everybody in the Braver Woman community is gay and LGBT, it just helped enormously. I'd actually never worked with a gay therapist before. Straight away, I felt comfortable. That was the first thing.
Yeah.
And then the things that you were talking about, and the things that we discussed about my life, it's just a whole different approach, a deeper approach. And I like the fact that you are incredibly, intensely invested. And the other thing was, when we started, I kind of had this, although I was going for it, I had this feeling in the back of my mind, well, I'm going to be a hopeless case. I'm just going to say, well, you were the one in 100 that it won't work for or something. And but it was just to have you believe in me so much was amazing. And your attitude from the beginning was, oh yeah, we can sort this. This is no problem. We'll help you through this. And that was just really refreshing.
Yeah. And that's the thing, just having somebody see us for who we are and believe us, that sense of validation and realness, it can be life-changing for somebody who spent their whole life tiptoeing around others, trying to slot into their world and change.
And it made it more easy for me to be honest, to be really open and honest about everything that was going on in my mind,
Yeah, for sure.
I felt safe because I trusted you,
Yeah. And that's the cornerstone, I think, of any successful therapeutic relationship, coaching, therapy. There's got to be rapport and there's got to be trust there, I think. Yeah. So what started to change inside Rain, and what was the first things that you started to notice that were changing? How did you make that change happen?
The first session we had together was just a talk to decide whether we were going to do therapy together, and it was so effective on me. Between that and all the videos that I'd watched in the group and the things that I'd read, that I actually, the next day I went out and started to work in my garden, and I stayed out there for, I remember, 18 minutes. And I hadn't been out in the garden on my own. I would go in the garden, but only if somebody else was with me. I hadn't been out there on my own for decades, so it was amazing.
Wow.
To have done that, and it was quite a moment for me. It was. I remember thinking, this is just incredible.
So from going from having decades of agoraphobia, not venturing outside the threshold of your door, into your garden for 18 minutes.
Yeah.
What happened internally for you to be able to do that, to overcome that fear?
It was the realization that the things that I was telling myself, they weren't all true. And there was an analogy that you gave about an elephant, which really resonated with me as well. And I just started realizing that maybe everything I believed about myself wasn't quite all there was to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that I thought, if somebody else believes in me, maybe I can believe in me just a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic.
That's how it started, with the 18 minutes in the garden.
I'm so excited to help you share what you've achieved from that 18 minutes. So obviously we worked together, and it was a few sessions in, wasn't it? That's, in fact, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let you just share your story, your transition from working a little bit in the garden to what the sequence of what actually happened.
Yeah, so the first thing I did was go out for a walk on my own, and I hadn't done that for many, many years. And I went out I was aware of when the sunrises were, because I like to watch the sunrise in the garden. And I went out to a place where I knew there was a good sunrise.
Yeah.
And just walking through the country lanes, out in the countryside, walking through the country lanes on my own. It was an amazing experience to feel like I had a right to be there like everybody else.
Yeah.
And then I remember getting to the point where the sunrise was, and I promised you that if I did it, I was going to take a selfie.
Yeah.
I had the camera up and I took the picture. And that was just a great moment for me.
Yeah.
Going out and going on this solo walk. And then the next thing, one Sunday morning, I suddenly decided I was going to go and get a newspaper. So I went to a shop, and it had been 18 years since I'd been inside a shop in any shape or form, either with anybody else or on my own. And I went and got a newspaper, and that was life-changing as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember getting the notification from you, and it was Russell Brand on the front news of the paper, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, and then most recently, what have you done? That was pretty special, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, going into a shop for the first time in 18 years was amazing, and I remember actually I was so keen to get into the shop that I kind of burst through the door, almost fell over. Quite funny. But after that, the next thing, then I went to see a castle that I wanted to go and visit. It's a castle that I'd always loved in pictures and that, and I'd been past it as a passenger in a car, and I went to see this castle and with a friend, and we got out of the car, and there was just people everywhere. It was a really busy day that I'd happened to choose to go.
Yeah.
And actually fine, and I was just walking through this very, very busy car park, and went into the ticket office, bought tickets, and then I was told that we had to get on a shuttle bus to get to the actual castle.
Yeah.
So for a fleeting second, I thought I hadn't been on a bus for. It turned out it was 31 years. And I saw the bus then. So luckily, I didn't have time to think about it for too long.
Yeah,
I got on the bus, and there I was, aged 60, on a bus for the first time in half my lifetime. I'd gone by since I was on a bus.
And then in public.
In public, yeah. The bus was packed, by the way. I only just found a seat.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was going, it was only a mile to get to the castle, but one was on the bus. holding on for dear life because it was all winding and everything, bumping along. I was just thinking, this is fantastic. I'm on a bus. It's amazing. I was really excited and happy about it. And of course, I did it again because I had to get the bus back to started from. After that, I went out for breakfast, which was a thing, that would have really scared me before. Again, I was absolutely fine, and it was just lovely to see people's faces for real, rather instead of on television and all that. And then the most recent thing I did, I turned 61 last week, and I went to the pub, sat in a beer garden, and then when it got cold, went and sat inside the pub, mingled with all the other people, and I was absolutely fine, and I had a lovely time.
Oh, Rain, honestly, I mean, I've been blown away by the progress that you've made every single week. It started and you just built and built and built. I remember getting a message from you, and you said to me, I feel like you've changed my DNA. But what I wanted to get you to realize, Rain, is that you've made those changes. You did this. So what was it that really got you from the garden to all of those places to finally sitting and enjoying your 61st birthday in a pub, mingling with other people? What changed?
The work that we did together, one thing that became very apparent, apart from the fact that I wasn't going out and I just shut down, was that I was living in the past. And I was terribly influenced by the past. I couldn't seem to move forward out of it. And during our sessions, I learned all the tools and how to do that, and how to move forward, how to be present. And the thing I learned most of all, I think, was that I have worth, that I'm a good person, I have a right to be in this world, that I belong, I'm not strange, there's nothing wrong with me. And that was, a big part of it.
Yeah. And so how I work with my clients, my private one-to-one clients, is that daily contact. How important was that for you, Ray?
That was amazing. I mean, I've never had anything like that with any other therapist. And we did have daily contact where I would contact you and then you'd get back to me. And that just gave it, consistency all along the whole time. I worked with you for about 2 months. And it just became a way of life for the time that we were doing it. And it was just constant support the whole time, really. Constant support and constantly having someone believe in you and cheering. It's like I put a cheerleader in my pocket, the little phone with all the messages and things. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I know my own experience with therapy when I was a youngster. So many women sit in front of me and they've said, I've had lots, like you said earlier, I've had therapy and coaching before and it's not worked. I think, well, why is that? And I really think that having something and a framework and tools and situations pre-planned on what you will do when these situations crop up is so important, so that you can actually get to work on yourself and know what to do outside of the sessions, rather than sitting and thinking, what do I do with this?
Yeah, I mean, you taught me a whole new way of thinking.
Yeah.
The other thing that was really important was that how invested you were in my success, to be free of the past, to be free of this staying in the house all the time. I just felt like you cared as much as I did about me getting out of this hole that I'd dug myself into. And you were very, very determined, and it made me be determined as well then. And that's what was different to any other therapies, was that I knew that you really, really, really cared about what we were doing, and it was really important to you, and it just makes all the difference to have somebody and have that attitude with you that you're working with, and it's brilliant.
Thank you, Rain. That means a lot. And you're very right. There's something I always say to my clients. You may have heard this on other videos that I've done or other podcasts, that I always say to my client, I will give you 1,000% always when we're working together. but can you give me 100? That's the
Yeah.
ratio. That's all I'm asking for.
Absolutely. And I think you inspired me to try harder all the time with the therapy, to throw myself into it. And when the therapist is working so hard, and how can you not work hard yourself? But it wasn't always easy. There were difficult parts to it, especially going into the past.
Yeah.
A lot of things I hadn't talked about or thought about for a long time, and they were quite upsetting. But we got through all that.
Yeah.
And you were determined to sort of leave no stone unturned.
Mm-hmm.
There were no little secrets that were left that I could hide away and not deal with. We dealt with everything, and it's sort of like when there's been a storm, and then this beautiful rainbow comes out. And that's what it started to become like at the end, when I started going on buses and going into shops and things.
That's such a beautiful analogy, Rain. It really is. I love that. And just as you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, that's the thing about emotions. When we try and suppress them, we put so much energy into trying to suppress them that's the thing that causes the problem. But when we actually bathe shame and guilt and trauma in sunlight, it loses its power.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So how important do you think it is to have healthy beliefs about yourself?
Oh, incredibly important. So to believe in yourself is the most important belief to have. To believe that you're someone worth knowing, that you as I said, you've the right to be here. And I one of the things I used to say when I very first came to you was that I'm rubbish at this, I'm rubbish at that, I can't do that. I even remember the very, very first Zoom session we had, the camera collapsed, and I started trying to fiddle with it, and I said, I'm rubbish at this, I can't, not good with mechanical things. And you said, of course you are, And I had to learn to stop all that negative self-talk, Yeah. And I came out at the other side believing in myself, talk to myself so much differently now, and it's much better.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? The words that we say to ourselves don't just describe something, they create an internal experience, because we don't just think with words, we think with images and pictures and sounds and memories and all of that. And so now being more present, what's that like for you, Rain?
Yeah, I've learned the words I use even to talk to myself are really important. And the importance of being decisive and consistent and all these different things. And it's been completely life-changing. I'm not a different person. I'm still Rain, but I'm just a much happier person.
Yeah. Happier in what way, would you say?
Well, I'm not hiding from life anymore. I'm going out there and enjoying it. And I always say to myself when I'm doing something, I can do this. Like, this is going to be fine. It's going to be brilliant. It's going to be enjoyable. It's going to be exciting. And I'm excited about life again. And that's the brilliant part. I'm as excited about my external life and my social life around people. The way before it was all just my little hobbies that I was doing indoors by myself that I got interested in.
Yeah.
But interested in the world again.
Rain, it's just magical to hear you say that. I'm interested in the world again.
Yeah.
And the world has missed out on you. And now that you're going to be back in the world, what does the future hold for you now that you're no longer crippled by an intrusive inner critic?
Yeah, well, I feel like the door is open for me now, and I can go out and do anything. There's a couple of things I've got on my list. One is I like going around castles and things, and there's a castle in Yorkshire in England called Castle Howard. Yeah, it has an amazing fountain called the Atlas Fountain. I've seen it on TV and in pictures, and I've always wanted to see that in real life. And I thought, well, I can't travel. I can't get on a boat or a plane. now, of course, that's going to be no problem. I can I'm hoping to go and see that in the spring.
That's lovely.
So there's also an island that my mum was born on, a tiny island in the Inner Hebrides called the Isle of Coll. And to get there involves getting on many boats and things. And I'm happy to do that now. I'm happy to travel and never been there before with the island that all my ancestors came from, going back hundreds of years, and I'll be able to go and see that now.
Honestly, you're giving me shivers down the back of my spine hearing you talk like this compared to where you were. It's just been such a tremendous journey in what, about 8 weeks, 9 weeks?
8 weeks. And bearing in mind that before that I was indoors. I actually had all the blinds in my house closed, and I was getting to the stage where I just wanted to stay in one room all the time, because I didn't access in my own kitchen because it was more open. So I've gone from that. So
living like that for how many years?
For most of my life.
Yeah, to now the world is your oyster, quite literally, with trips to Yorkshire, trips to the Inner Hebrides.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to make an appointment to speak to you, Rain, aren't I?
Yeah, I'm going to be so busy.
And so what does mental freedom look and feel like for you now? Because I know that there's going to be a lot of women listening to this going, I wonder how she feels now. What's it like to be you now inside?
Oh, I'm just so much happier. Before I felt like a prisoner, and it's like being let out of prison. Wow. I just feel like I belong in the world now. And for so many years, going right back to when I was a child, I felt like I didn't belong here. And there's one saying that you have in the group, your difference is your strength.
That's right.
And I feel that now, especially I love being in the brave women community. And it's just great that we're all different and we're all strong, and we're brave women.
Yeah, it really is. And, I didn't realize how much I enjoyed being different. There's a video I've put out actually only in the community, and it's about, have you ever seen Toy Story? The movie. It's one of the characters that's the same as every other character on the shelf in a box toy. And I just thought, how boring is it just to go through your life trying to be like everybody else?
Yeah.
That's not living. That's just fitting in, isn't it? And with the illusion of living, I think.
And I tried so hard at certain points in my life to conform, like when I got married and so on, trying to look more feminine and trying to change who I was. And it's just when I came out, it was amazing to be me. And this is like coming out again in a different way. Since I've been working with you, it's like coming out into the world.
Wow, Rain.
Coming out the first time was just coming out as me, to myself really more than anything. And now it's like coming out to the world like everybody else. Yeah.
Honestly, I've just been so impressed with your own conscientiousness as well, your own level of commitment, but trust in me, but having that trust and knowing that where we were going together, because it wasn't just a case of me sitting back going, off you go and do that. I feel like I've been very much on this journey with you. We've almost had hold of one another, and just I think that's so important. And just to see that commitment, because some people, I want therapy. Can you change me? Can you help me? Can you do it for me? I've almost heard, but the work that you have put in consistently, every minute, every hour, every day, it's led you in 8 weeks to be where you are now, Rain. What an inspiration for anyone, not just queer women, but anyone listening to.
Also working with you, the effort that you put in, and I should mention this to everybody as well, is that you just totally go above and beyond what would be expected, or what I would expect somebody, in especially in the way that you just are so, as I said, invested in making sure that this has a good outcome. And even times where there was a couple of times where I felt it's not going to happen, and I'm not going to ever recover from the way I was, and you were so determined and just to tell them that we were going to get to the end and get to this positive place where I'm at now, where I'm off to see the Atlas Fountain soon. It's been amazing.
Oh, well, you've been amazing to work with, Rain. Honestly, you really have been. You're up there with one of my most inspirational clients. I've got to tell you now, I'm inspired by everybody that comes to work with me. But I'm telling you now that, what you have achieved in such a short space of time is nothing short of incredible. Just feels like a small word to try and describe it, if I'm honest. It really does. And honestly, I've worked with many women who suffer from agoraphobia and that perceived fear of that self-doubt and that awful fear of just being present in the world. But just to overcome that, it's not just one fear; it's a whole host of things that you've allowed yourself to overcome. You've allowed yourself just to test it, and you've given yourself that chance. You've advocated for yourself. You've not abandoned yourself. You've been there, and it's just remarkable to see you sitting here telling your story to the world.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a huge undertaking for both of us, given that I am 60 and it was an awful lot of wrong thinking to undo. But we did it and we got there, and here we are.
We did. And so I always like to finish these types of talks that I have with the incredible clients that work with me, just to find out from you what advice you'd give to any woman who's found themselves suffering from trauma, who's suffering from self-doubt or low self-esteem, who's doubting coming out, anything like that. What advice would you give to any queer woman who suffers with fear or self-doubt? What would you say to them?
Well, I would say it's never too late. Whatever stage you're at in your life, even if you've been suffering for a long time, I'm definitely living proof that it's never too late to change your life. And I would say to them, if they were part of the group or they were thinking of joining the group, to join the group, to look at everything that's there, to see all you get a chance in the group to see all the videos. Before working with you, I got to see all the videos, and that was amazing. And I would say to anybody who wanted to change their life to start working with you and see for themselves.
All right, thank you. That's so kind. That's so kind. And one of the things that I've asked you to do actually is to remain in the Braver Women Facebook group as a proud mentor. I always
be very proud to do that.
Yeah, because I think it's really important. Is not just me. I'm not an expert at life. I might be a therapist and a coach, but that doesn't mean I know everything. And I think it's really important that we network. And any woman that's worked with me, I always give them opportunity to have some credibility, to have some an opportunity to mentor and give some of their advice to other women who are struggling. I think that's how we make ourselves as a community a strong, formidable force. And to have,
and I've had a huge amount of support from the women that were already there, just amazing. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to now being on the other side of the fence where I've completed my therapy and I'm ready to be there for other people.
Yeah. I mean, it is an incredible group, and I'm very blessed and very grateful for all the amazing women that provide that peer support, who perhaps aren't quite ready to reach out themselves, but are really happy to digest the content and listen to incredible stories like yours, Rain, and all the other women that decide to be part of what I'm trying to achieve with Braver Women. But I want to say, hand on heart, thank you so much for choosing to work with me. Thank you for believing in me and the process that I've designed for queer women, and for you giving yourself back to you, for you to just be you and love yourself. And
a lot of you for taking me on and for believing in me so much. That's been the biggest thing, just for believing in me and for being determined to get me to this place.
Rain, you're so welcome. You are so welcome. And I really hope that you stick around. You've got lifetime access to the client support group. So you've got that ongoing peer support for however long you want it. But I cannot wait to see what happens, what the future holds for you over the next few months or years. Yeah, it's going to be so exciting. So
I have to wear shades to be Ray-Bans.
I'll get my Ray-Bans on order. Thanks a million, Rain.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Cheers.